Hi, Indiana. How are you? Indiana, so we are having a our meeting is starting jointly with Health and Environment. So
Okay,
if you can join the Health and Environment meeting, I'm going to see if I'm going to pull up the Zoom link from the website. And then
okay,
what will happen is after that, we'll kind of end the joint presentation and then
okay,
we'll hop back on for the housing bit. A little
okay.
logistical.
No
Um,
problem. And sorry, hello. I was just I had stepped away for a second, but I'm here.
All good, all good. Thank you so much. I'm gonna also let Tanisha know as well.
Okay, and just one question. Are you going to send that
Yes,
that link in the chat or via email?
via email.
Okay, I will check. Thank you very much.
The which chat? All the links are on the website. Yeah, so just go to, yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna. So if you go to the on the website, the calendar, and
Oh, okay.
scroll down for health and environment, click on that link, and you'll get the Zoom link.
Got it. Okay, I will do that right now. Thank you.
Not a problem.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Hey,
Bye.
Tanisha, good to see you. I just mentioned to Indiana because we are having a joint meeting with Health and Environment, or a joint presentation, excuse me, with Health and Environment. If you could please join the Health and Environment link, I'm going to send it to you now. Let me pull it up. And then what will happen is after the joint presentation, we'll ask you to come back onto the housing link. So just give me 1 second. They're getting started in a moment. They're waiting for us, but let me pull this up for you. 1 minute, please. Oops, where's this thing? Um, Health and environment. Okay, 1 second. Okay, let me know if you got that.
Yeah, hi. It's saying that I can't register for that meeting.
Um, Let me ask Paola then, because that shouldn't be the case. 1 second, hold on. She just stepped up. Tanisha's having problems registering for the health and environment meeting.
Everything's on YouTube and Facebook too, if it's easier. I don't know
Okay.
why I would give her time. That's the link.
It says this July 6th. That meeting is for July 6th. So
Here, let me see what the link that I copy. This is the link that I
says
copied off.
November 7th, and when you click on it, just click on it so she can see it as well.
Yeah, this is
Maybe
the one
she's grabbing the wrong thing.
no, I copied that link for her, so I don't know. Let me see. Here, try this, Tanisha, and see if that works for you.
Wait, why you guys go back to where you were for our meeting calendar?
Uh-huh.
You see the link there? Click that
This
link.
one?
Yes.
Yeah, this is the one I sent her.
All right. She's using something different because you said
Yeah, it says November
7th.
7th. Yeah. Here, let me send you the link again, Tanisha, and try this.
What yourself and does it right away, you send the link.
Yeah.
It could be copied or
Yeah, it could be.
there's nothing wrong with the website. It's actually
Okay. I just put the link to the website. If you click that last link I just put, Tanisha, let me know
mhm.
if you're able to get on. Okay, sounds good. We should be over there in like a minute or two. I'm gonna put this in the chat too, just to let people know that we're on this. Um, Is it working, Tanisha? She's in? Okay, good. So I'm gonna mute this and then I'm gonna go back to the other meeting. Hi, Monica and Louis. Thank you for joining us. We are having a joint presentation with Health and Environment today. I've put the link in the chat. After we have that presentation, then we'll come back onto the housing link. So please join us there. Thank you. Let me just put on here. Hi, everyone. Hopefully you can hear me.
Hello, yep, we can hear you.
Okay. Wonderful. There we go. All right. Good. Thank you again for, you may have to, yeah. Sorry, we're just sorting out tech, but I think we're sorted now. Thank you again for just working with us. Sorry. Hold on. Luis, I see your hand up. I'm gonna allow you to talk, but we do have a section under new business, but it may be, I'm not sure if it's like an update on the Family Engagement Center. One second. Oh,
Yes, we do have updates for tonight.
perfect.
Yeah,
Can-
so
Wonderful.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. Can we put you, because we have a presentation by Freedom Agenda, and then we will also have a presentation from Carmen de la Rosa's office, our council member. And so can we put you under the agenda item F, updates from community-based organizations?
sure.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
All right, thank you so much.
Yep. Great. So with that, you need screen sharing privileges, correct, Ryan? Wonderful. Let me know, and if not, I can. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yes, good. So thank you, everyone. Again, I thought it was really helpful to have that presentation by the New York City Accelerator. We're now going to have a presentation. I know one of the things as a committee we've been talking about is we've been focusing quite a bit on the housing bit, which is incredibly important, but we're also human services. And so wanting to kind of shine a light on some of that work as well. So today we have, sorry, there's just, I'm not sure what's going on. This is really kind of disturbing stuff happening outside. Okay, okay. Yeah, so it's just really like disturbing yelling outside. Yeah. We think it's just, excited teenagers. Anyway, so we do have a presentation today by Freedom Agenda. A big thank you to Sonia for inviting Ryan from Freedom Agenda. And with that, I'll turn it over to you. And are you also from Freedom Agenda as well?
Yes.
Okay, sorry.
I'm not officially the Freedom
Okay.
Agenda, but I'm part of the coalition.
Got it. Wonderful. Sure.
We Interfaith Center. Interfaith Center is a partner support organization of our campaign. So
Okay.
I'll explain what the campaign is. I'll explain what the work is. What my understanding is this is like 5 to 10 minute presentation, so we try to keep it.
We can give you like 10 to 15, because I know the other one went quite long, a little bit longer than expected, but usually we give kind of presentation about 15 minutes at tops.
Okay. I'm gonna give you the short version. But in case you've never heard of Freedom Agenda before, Freedom Agenda is an organization. It's a project out of the Urban Justice Center, and Freedom Agenda. We organize people who are impacted by the jails on Rikers Island one way or another. Either they're formerly incarcerated, or maybe they have a family member who is detained there currently. Some of our members, they have lost their loved ones to Rikers Island, and they continue to organize in their memory, change conditions, and prevent similar things from happening to other people's family members. And so we organize people who have been harmed by Rikers. We do advocacy and organizing trainings. We build up the public speaking, political analysis of our membership, and build people up into leaders. And our members lead the campaign to close Rikers. So the campaign to close Rikers is the biggest project that Freedom Agenda does. We're involved in other campaigns and coalitions and whatnot. But this is probably the thing you've heard of. If you haven't heard of Freedom Agenda, you've heard that there's a campaign to close Rikers. And so for us, the campaign to close Rikers, it's not just about taking people out of one jail and put them in a different jail. It's driven by a vision that we summarize in these 3 words up here, but a vision that we don't need to be locking up everybody that we pick up. We can be incarcerate, we can have less people in jail. There are a lot of reasons that people are in jail that they shouldn't be. And I think a lot of those reasons connect actually to the mission of this committee, in that like there's a lot of people who are in jail because they're homeless, or there are a lot of people in jail because they have mental health issues or substance abuse issues, and we're not treating those issues. That's a big focus of our work, is decarceration, defending the rights of people who are incarcerated. Like, we also believe that even if people are detained because they've harmed somebody else, that they're still.
Sorry, excuse me 1 second, Ryan. If you could please, what I may do, I'm gonna mute here, and then if you can unmute on your
Oh, yeah.
laptop, so maybe that's a little bit better, so that our,
Sure.
let's see if this works. Hold on.
I think the way
Can you
that-
hear me a little bit better now?
Yes, thank you.
Whoever was having trouble hearing me.
We
Is it
can hear you,
clear?
Ryan.
Thank you.
Saying much better, thanks, but if we can get a thumbs up or something from people online. Just make sure. Yes.
Yes, okay,
Good,
cool.
sorry about that, go ahead.
So yeah, so we also believe that people who are incarcerated are human beings, and they're members of our community. They're going to return to our community, and so it's very important that we protect their human rights, and that we advocate for better conditions for people who are incarcerated. And then the third portion of what we do is about divesting and redistributing. That we believe that a lot of times we talk about giving people second chances, but we acknowledge a lot of people haven't been given first chances. A lot of our communities don't have the housing resources, the educational resources, the healthcare and treatment resources that they need. And so what we need, part of our work is budget work, is looking at the way that the city spends money, the state spends money, and trying to put more of that money into our communities, so that we're preventing people from cycling into the system in the first place. And so instead of spending all this money on punishing people and treating them with violence, we're putting more resources into our community to help people thrive and heal. So that's what the Campaign to Close Rikers is all about. You all probably know things about Rikers. But I'm going to just walk through a couple of things. Like, who is on Rikers? Like, about 90% of the people on Rikers are Black or Latino. And some people think of Rikers as a prison, like people have been convicted of something, but Rikers is actually primarily a pretrial detention facility. So 85% of the people on Rikers are awaiting trial. They haven't been convicted of anything. They've just been accused of something and arrested for it. People are detained on Rikers for incredibly long amounts of time, and that amount of time is far longer if they're struggling with a mental health condition. More than half, close to 60% of the people on Rikers have a mental health diagnosis, and a full fifth of people on Rikers have a serious mental illness. So about 1,400 people, and that number has climbed a lot since Mayor Adams took office, increased about 62%. So we are warehousing people with serious mental illness on Rikers Island. And you probably see it in the news sometimes that people on that island are not getting the mental health treatment that they need. So that's a big part of why we do what we do. A lot of people believe, the system treats everybody equally. The system is fair. Like people get rehabilitated, but like, yeah, we share the statistics to show that it obviously doesn't and isn't. And just some like super local stats, right? The most recent year we have stats for is 2021 of jail admissions. Can you see? Oh, you can see there. Okay. And so in 2021, for example, yes, more than half of the people on Rikers are Black. So 341 people from just this neighborhood, Washington Heights, and with just this community board area were sent to Rikers in 2021. It costs $500,000 to detain a person on Rikers per year. So 341 people from this neighborhood means New York City spent $190 million incarcerating people from this area in 2021. And you think about like $190 million, like what could you do with $190 million? Like you could put everybody through Harvard, you could house them, you could give people jobs, and then also the disparities show up in the numbers of people admitted to jail. Black people are admitted in Manhattan. So this is Manhattan-wide stat, but like almost 30 times as often as white people in this borough, and about 10 times Hispanic people as white people. So just like super racist disparities in how neighborhoods, people in this borough are policed, arrested, incarcerated. So there's a lot of good reasons to close the jails on Rikers Island. It enables this system of mass incarceration through this biased criminal legal system. And a lot of people point out rightly that, you know, all jails work. You hear the horrible things that happen in Rikers. You hear horrible things about jails in Mississippi. You hear horrible things about jails upstate. But one of the things that is unique about Rikers is the fact that it's on an island. And the fact that Rikers is not one jail, it's 10 jails. Over a century, the city built out this massive jail complex on this island that they operate completely out of sight and out of mind. It's really, there's one bridge that goes on and off of Rikers. It's not easy for the public to get to Rikers. And because of that, it's incredibly hard to know what's going on Rikers. And when something bad is happening, it usually requires some kind of leak, or, you know, like the media has to like talk to people. Like there's no official reporting. A lot of the times they just are hiding what's happening there, and that's easier to do when it's isolated the way that Rikers is. It's harder to hide when conditions are bad, when the jail is on a street and people can bang on the windows and say there's no heat here, or hey, they're abusing somebody in the hallway. Like this is all happening on an island that nobody can get to. And Rikers doesn't address the root causes of harm. Like I mentioned, like about a third of the people on Rikers are homeless. More than half of them have mental health issues. And Rikers doesn't fix those issues. People get released from Rikers, and they're still homeless, and they still are struggling with their mental illness. And then they get rearrested, and we say they're just recidivists. They're just, you know, like as if this is like a moral failing of a person, when it's really a moral failing of this system to not help people get the things that they need. So there's enormous moral and financial costs to keeping Rikers open. And so like over many years, many organizations and individuals, people who are formerly incarcerated and their loved ones, you know, legal service orgs, reentry service orgs, grassroots community organizations, faith communities, this huge coalition got together and said, like, we can't let this continue. We need to erase the stain on our city. And they got Mayor de Blasio to agree to close the jails on Rikers Island. And the city, over a few years, approved a plan to close the jails on Rikers Island. And the plan meant that the city made, enshrined in the law, like many commitments. And one of those commitments was to decarcerate. They're shrinking a system that in the 90s held more than 20,000 people in the jails on Rikers Island and the jails in the boroughs, to a system that would hold less than 4,000 people, and make the corresponding investments in alternative programs that would allow that to happen. And commit to closing all 10 of the jails on Rikers Island and the boat off of Hunts Point by 2027. So that's like a massive effort towards decarceration. But the plan also committed to defending the rights of people who are still going to be incarcerated, those less than 4,000 people, by replacing the jails that exist now in the boroughs, the Brooklyn House of Detention, the Queens House of Detention, the Tombs in Manhattan and Chinatown. And they're replacing the boat in the Bronx with a new jail on the site of a former NYPD tow pound in Mott Haven. And these facilities are being designed as we speak. They're being designed in accordance with principles that our movement came up with and pushed the city to adopt, that would make sure that these jails don't work the way that the old jails do. And that they would have tons of space for programming and counseling, and that the visiting services would feel humane, and there would be body scanners. So when employees are going in, like they can be scanned for contraband, and, you know, like, just like really trying to be very intentional about how we design these things so they don't reproduce the same problems. And then the city also invested $250 million in 2019 in new funds for community resources. Some of that was like more money for schools, parks, sewage, you know, whatever the neighborhood wanted. And some of it was like system stuff, like we're going to invest in more cure violence programs, or more restorative justice programs, or alternatives to incarceration. And the city estimated that by shrinking the system by this size, the city would save $2 billion a year by closing those 10 jails on Rikers and shifting to a smaller system. And so they created this commission whose job it is to like map out how are we going to shift that money over the time that Rikers closes. Where are we going to put that $2 billion every year? And so that commission continues to meet. Many of our members and partners are on it. So that all happened in 2019. But where we're at now is like we've made some progress towards that, but we're not there yet. This is a map of Rikers Island showing you the 10 jails on Rikers Island. 3 of those jails have been closed. Some of the land on Rikers Island has been transferred out of the control of the Department of Correction. There was a law passed in 2021 called the Renewable Rikers Act. And that is really what enshrined in law that the island cannot be used for incarceration after August 31st of 2027. Every 6 months, they have to look at the whole island and be like, are we using this? Are we not using this? And if they're not using it, they transfer it over to another city agency called DCAS. So the James A. Thomas Center, it's mistyped here, has been transferred out of DOC's control. It's in DCAS's control now. And like 41 acres of land on the eastern edge of the island have been transferred out of DOC's control. The jail population is also down a bit from where it was in 2019, but it's gone up a lot under Mayor Adams. And in 2020, it was down to about 4,000. We had like already reached where we needed to get. But in the intervening years, the city's ramped up arrests and incarceration. So we have a lot more work to do to get where we were trying to go. The city's in the process of they demolished the 4 jails that existed in the boroughs already, and they're now in the process of designing and constructing the new ones. The Brooklyn jail is the furthest along. That one, it has begun the construction process. There was like a year or 2 long design process, and it's slated to be completed in 2029, which you'll note is later than the 2027 deadline. The jails in the Bronx and Queens have signed construction contracts. They've been given notice to proceed, but they're just starting the design process. So there's going to be community hearings where people can show up and talk about it, and give feedback and suggest how they should design the jails. The Manhattan jail is the furthest behind. That I think they have just recently announced the company that's going to get the contract, but they have not signed the contract yet. And so it will be even further behind. I think the furthest behind jail is Queens, and that's slated to be completed in 2032. So Manhattan might be even later than that. So the city is going to have to reckon with that contradiction of like the island is legally not allowed to be used for incarceration in 2027, but these new facilities will not be ready yet. So that's something we're figuring out how to grapple with. And while we're figuring out how to grapple with all that, the conditions on Rikers remain terrible. 6 people have died on the island this year alone. Many of the stories really heartbreaking and terrible. And people are being, I think there was very recently a whistleblower said that they say they don't use solitary confinement, but people with mental health issues, they call it deadlocking. They just lock them in their cells all day and they don't let them out. And we would never know if this whistleblower hadn't come out and told the media that this is what was happening, so there's a lot of work that we have to do now to try to support people and protect people's human rights, while we still continue to push this future plan forward. So that's my presentation about the campaign and where things are at. What we're working on right now, we do legislative advocacy where we try to pass laws at the city and at the state level that fall into those buckets. There's bills that we work on that are going to bring the population down. There's bills that we work on that are about improving conditions on the island. And then we also do budget advocacy where every year we come to City Hall, the City Council, and we push for them to cut money from the Department of Corrections budget, and push them to make key investments. And many of our investments fall in the umbrella of things that you all work on. We fight for justice-involved supportive housing, which is a model that is tailored to people who have open cases or a history within the system. But you probably are familiar with supportive housing more generally, and it's a model that's really helpful for this population of people that are struggling with mental health issues, substance use issues, and homelessness to break that cycle so that they're going to a place where they feel safe and they have support in the apartment building, that prevents them from going into crisis again, and ending up back on Rikers. But I can stop sharing my screen so people can ask questions if you like.
Brian. I'm going to turn the mic on back here. So might have to put the volume down. So.
Hi, Tanisha. Hi, Indiana. Just checking that you can hear me. It looks like you can. right? Okay,
Yep, we can hear you.
okay, good. I saw that you raised your hand, Tanisha. Before I turn it over to you, just to thank you to both of you for joining us this afternoon. I know that I have a couple of questions, but I'll turn it over to Tanisha first and then Indiana, and then we can take kind of in-person questions. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Chair. I appreciate it. Ryan, thank you for your presentation. Thank you for all the works that you are doing. I don't have a question so much as a comment. So right now, I also happen to be in Somos, and we got to remember history because I'm down here right now, and one of the people attending Somos is the DA for the Bronx. And if we remember our history, the DA for the Bronx had a lot to do with Kalief Browder being held on Rikers Island, and we know how that ended. So it's very disturbing for me because a lot of time we talk about, oh, it's all of us together, and it's really not. Like, this system criminalizes first and foremost Black people overwhelmingly. So I want to know, if do you have because I know, Ryan, you speak a lot, but do you have other like people that are in leadership for the freedom agenda that have actually had the lived experience of being on that horrible island? And Chair, I just want us to strategize and how can we add advocacy to the closing of Rikers for all of the things. Thanks, Ryan.
No problem. Yeah, it's sort of random that I'm the person who's here to speak about it tonight because most of the people who work at Freedom Agenda are people who are directly impacted by the system. Our co-founder Darren Mack spent time on Rikers Island as a teenager and spent time in the state prison system after that. And our community organizer Edwin Santana, the same. He went through the youth detention system as a child, and then Rikers Island, and then the prison system. And Ashley Santiago, our other community organizer, her nephew was on Rikers for 2.5 years and is now upstate. And then our membership, we have a lot of member leaders that we can send to do these kinds of presentations too. And they're many of them are, as I said before, are formerly incarcerated or have a loved one. So it's just a sort of accident that I'm the person who was available to speak here tonight. But I'm not the leader of the organization, and I'm not the spokesperson of the organization. I just worked for Freedom Agenda and was available to come.
No. I know that, Ryan. I just wanted you to explain, like who your organization is made up of, because I think that that's important that we understand that it's the people that are have been directly impacted by the horrors of Rikers Island. And you also just made my second point for me. We have to understand that a lot of people that get tied up in the criminal justice system, they come from the child welfare system. Mm-hmm. It is a straight line to criminalization of Black children. So as one of those children that was in that line, I am a strong advocate for things of this nature. And I just want to say that we got to make sure that we are connecting the dots, that this is the system, the way that they want it to work. And we have to break that down. So thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tanisha. I'll come back on one of the questions you asked, Tanisha, around what can our committee do to kind of support on some of these bits, but I'll leave my point to the end. Indiana?
Chair, I will defer to you because that is kind of where my question was headed. The only thing I'll add is that one of the, there are a lot of reasons that opponents to closing Rikers raise. And one of the things that seems, not that we should have to come up with reasons that you can't kind of push to the side, but one of the things that I thought was impactful was I heard some advocates highlight that the fact that those who are in detention are held on Rikers, a lot of times they don't make their court dates. They, like their cases are delayed for reasons that are outside of their own control. They're not getting good, access to healthcare. They're not getting access to education, but not just that. They're also not getting access to the attorneys and the court dates and, the hearings that would then allow them to return home. And so I just thought I would highlight that as well. But Chair, I defer to you because my question also was, what can we do? I'm especially concerned about the delays. Now, especially with like the change at the federal level and the Senate and things like that, like what can we do given that these projects are already so delayed in terms of the timeline? Thank you.
No, thank you, Indiana. Before I chime in, just want to check if anyone else has comments or questions here.
Yeah.
Ready up?
Everybody can hear me. I love the work that you're. I work more on the workforce side of things. I'm on the community partner program for Workforce One, which is a city initiative. And I am working with a lot of them Justice Touch individuals. And I would like to see a lot of the city tries. They try, but the programs are just not strong enough. And I find that a lot of these people, they just don't have a soft place in the land when they come home. So it's like they don't have, it's so hard for me to find work for them. And then they're having housing issues, they're having and it's just like a rat race for them. And I'm happy that you're on that legislative side, and advocacy side, and I would really just love to see these programs strengthen a little bit more. So yeah, whatever we can do, whatever I can do, definitely want to get your information.
Thank you, Radia. Just checking, I don't think I see any other hands online. I think one of the main thing, again, thank you both for taking the time. One of the main things that kind of stuck out to me is the budget advocacy. It's crazy, those numbers. It's like mind-boggling. We just went through our kind of annual kind of budget and expense priority, where we kind of want as a committee, but also ask for input from the community around what would you like to see in kind of, community board 12? What are the top priorities? And in previous years, usually some of the top things that come up are usually from this committee. Affordable housing, access to food pantries, all of those things that you talked about, those things that unfortunately start that cycle. And how do we address those root causes, as you mentioned? And so I honestly see quite a bit around the budget advocacy bit. Although from the community board's perspective, we've just put that in. One of the things that we have been trying to do a bit more of is actually then follow up with the Office of Budget Management and the relevant city agencies to say, okay, we've put this request in. What is your official response? And we kind of went through that process last month, where in some cases, the respective city agency would come back and say, well, yes, this is a new initiative. We want to support this, or our agency does not have sufficient resources to do this. And so really holding them accountable for some of these bits and pieces. That's kind of my initial thought. I also wonder kind of on the legislative side if there are some things, kind of funding for more of these programs, particularly again on that human services angle. We have in the past, and thanks to Tanisha and other members of the committee, also invited community-based organizations that work on mental illness as well, and kind of talking about some of the services that they provide. And really, again, kind of what are the root causes, really addressing some of these things from the beginning, rather, and be preventative. Those would be, I think we'd have to kind of flesh it out a bit more to be a bit more specific and very intentional about how we engage. But those are kind of my initial thoughts, and I'd welcome reflections from others, and also for both of you as well.
Yeah, no, I definitely like aligning budget asks is really helpful. Whatever way we can increase the pressure and the focus on the specific things that we believe are going to help the most. So that's definitely helpful. I know we have a city council staff on the call right now.
Yes.
So, and I'm pretty sure Councilmember De La Rosa has been helpful in the past. There is a little bit of city legislation that we're working on. We won two of our biggest city council legislative campaigns in the past year. One was a bill to end the use of solitary confinement in the jails, and one was a bill to end the practice of housing discrimination against people with criminal backgrounds on their record. And And so the Fair Chance for Housing Act passed, and that's
Yep.
being implemented by the Office of Human Rights. And then the bans and solitary confinement, the mayor did this finagling with an emergency declaration and executive order to make it so like they don't have to obey the law. And they tell everybody there's no solitary confinement, but the whistleblower
We
just
see
showed
that.
all of us that there is. So we're still working on figuring out how that law can be implemented. But in the meantime, we're working on two other bills, intros 412 and 423. And those are basic like transparency bills. Those are like last year, the Department of Corrections said they were going to stop telling the public when people die on Rikers Island. And we were like, what? and so we shouldn't have to make a bill to do this, but like this is a bill to like mandate that they report publicly when somebody dies on Rikers Island. And then another bill is about like when someone's like seriously injured or hospitalized or attempt suicide, like they have to sign consent forms and explain who they want to know about any of this. But there should be a system for like helping a family find out when that's happened. A lot of family members, they don't find out that their loved one's been hospitalized until like weeks later when somebody else who's incarcerated calls them and says, I haven't seen him in this, they took him to the hospital. They don't get anything from the Department of Correction or CHS, Correctional Health Services. They so like that bill, those bills are about transparency and creating mechanisms for how information can be shared with family members and the public in the case of deaths. But yeah, so it seems like common sense, like they should just pass these bills. But the Department of Correction doesn't want those bills to get passed. So we need city council to like hustle and get that done. And the mayor also just got a ballot measure passed that is going to make it harder to pass laws like these in the future. It's going to take longer. It has to go through more hoops and stuff. So yeah, those are our city level legislative priorities. We have state level priorities that will be more impactful in terms of decarceration, I think. But we can keep you in the loop about bills that we're working on that we would be like, talk to Councilmember about this one.
Yeah, no, thank you. Please do and keep us updated. We'll obviously exchange information after this because we have in the past produced resolutions as a committee supporting specific kind of pieces of legislation or kind of bills going towards mostly aimed at city council. That's kind of where our remit to, obviously there's a little bit of kind of reaching out to the state level, but in terms of kind of our level of influence, I think it's mostly kind of city level. So do keep us posted, and that's something that we could possibly, after kind of examining and the committee can decide if we choose to produce a resolution on it. The other thing I was going to mention in regards to how we can support, we do have a somewhat of a decent sized listserv of like community-based organizations in our community. And so recently kind of pulled it together and I kind of usually would send out an email once a month to representatives from these different community-based organizations and say, hey, we're having our meeting. I would also like it to be a space where, if there are things that are happening that you want to share information, I'm happy to kind of be a conduit and say, okay, look, did you know that this organization is doing this? If your organization is involved, reach out to them. So that's also, kind of connecting those dots and recognizing that, not to reinvent the wheel, but recognize that every CBO, as you all know, they have their own expertise. How can we all kind of, again, in terms of kind of coalition building, to address some of these issues? So happy to kind of connect you there. And along those lines, we actually do have, as I mentioned to our colleague Lewis from the Family Engagement Center, we have like a monthly drop-in. So even if it's like, hey, I don't have a presentation, but just want to let you guys know what we're doing over at, Freedom Agenda or these meetings are open. So
yeah, I mean, because that's the other thing is this is a long campaign. We won that initial victory, but implementing it has taken us a really long time. So like making sure that New Yorkers understand what's happening. That just like ongoing public education is just evergreen important work. And I, with all apologies to the people who are on Zoom, we're doing a postcard signing campaign right now. Because we also need to keep the pressure on the mayor. And on December 10th, we're going to be delivering a giant stack of postcards to Mayor Adams at City Hall. And the postcards sort of just outline our demands to the mayor. And with the slogan being "Follow the law, close Rikers." A lot of the reason that things have dragged out is because this mayor came into office and decided this was not as much of a priority for him, and he slow walked the construction contracts. He has ramped up policing and enforcement all over the city, in the subways, on the streets, and so the population has expanded a lot under him. And so, if you feel cool with it, you can put your information, and we're gonna bring them and deliver. We're trying to collect at least 2027 or 2027 and to deliver to him on that day. I think we're gonna beat that number by a lot. Yeah, but anybody who's here can sign a postcard.
Sure, just a quick question. Did he choose December 10th for Human Rights Day?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
but I work in the UN space, so it's like Human Rights Day.
Yeah, exactly.
The other thing, and you have a question? Okay, 1 second. When do you need the postcards by? Because we can also drop some of these off at the general meeting. And so we do that. There's also the other thing, and again, in terms of kind of the work that you do and kind of finding those connection points. So our general meeting this month, let's forget, is on the 26th. And you can sign up for public session. And so the way that works is either in person or on Zoom. Obviously, if you're doing the post, probably in person, but it's like a 2-minute slot, and you can kind of speak on behalf of the organization, and you can just mention that the postcards are there. And usually that's attended by the full board, which is about 50 plus, or so people.
Okay.
So that's also an opportunity for you to plug in. And again, there's also kind of other committee meetings as well. So you can share kind of one of the there you go, the calendars with you, so you can see where there's points of helpful to connect with other colleagues across the entire community board.
Yeah. Yeah, keep that between us. It may be me, it may not be me.
Yeah.
It could be one of the scholars.
Sure,
So we'd love to come back. Yeah. like,
sure, thank you. Sorry, please, over to you.
So in terms of like public education, is there a way that I can have some of these, because I conduct outreach to the unhoused individuals actually within Washington Heights, and a lot of the individuals that I do come across are impacted by Rikers, and I'm sure like this would be a great engagement tool for them, because they are really on proposed Rikers agendas.
Yeah, so these postcards have a phone number and an email address for our community organizer, Edwin Santana. So if you meet somebody who's like, I've been on Rikers, I want to do something about it, give them that and tell them call Edwin, and he'll help them. And our community organizers take very good care of our people once they get connected to us.
Thank you so much. Just checking to see if there's any other questions or comments, or would you like to say anything?
I don't have anything very substantial to. I one thing that just came to mind as Ryan was talking. So I go out and visit Rikers as a chaplain. That's sort of my main involvement, and just the way these issues are intertwined and cascade. I was sitting and talking with a guy yesterday. He's over 60. He had managed to secure himself a place in a shelter, so he had some stable housing for a while. Got caught shoplifting a bottle of NyQuil. He is now going to be on Rikers for at least a month and a half before he even gets to work, and is predictably worried he's going to lose his spot in this shelter. All of his possessions, including screenplays he's been writing, things like that, will be gone. He doesn't have anybody that he can contact on the outside to go and get his stuff, nor can he get anybody at the shelter to pick up. I mean, his opinion is he calls, they hear the recording of this is a call from Rikers Island. They don't want anything to do with it. So, this is a situation which a guy is already in an unstable position as far as housing. It's going to make it far worse. And, just to Ryan's point, that there are people there who there's no good reason for them to be out there taking up city resources and getting in worse positions. So I'm also a Washington Heights local. I've been out here for about 20 years. So if there's any way that I can a resource to follow.
No, thank you. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. Let me see if there's anyone else. I don't see any other things, callings on chat or anything. Okay, great. You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
I'm
And
gonna have to sleep.
sure, if you wouldn't mind, there's a public sign-up sheet. If you leave your contact information, then I'll be sure to kind of, respond, and that way we're connected.
And if you're down to sign
Oh,
up,
it's
I can
gonna
call
come.
them
Thank you. Sure, no, thank you for this. Okay, so now we'll move on to thank you again. We'll now we're now going to move on to monthly updates from elected representatives on housing and human services. And we have both Kiana and Jamila who are joining us today from Councilmember Carmen de la Rosa's office to talk about or kind of provide a bit of an update on the Homes Now, Homes Generation campaign, and kind of how that's coming along. And again, to your point around housing, I think it's really kind of poignant that they're also here to kind of provide an update on that, which is really focused on providing more affordable housing, in housing that already exists. How do we update it and make it better? All of these things. So over to you, Kiana.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for having me tonight. I promise, as always, I'm not trying to make this too long. I'm trying to keep it brief. It's been a long night already. So I just wanted to give a few updates as I know that the board went on hiatus as soon as we passed the budget, and I haven't been able to come back and give any updates on what I asked you guys to support us on. So I just wanted to do the due diligence and give you guys the updates on what's been happening. So the budget passed. And I know that we probably have new board members on. So we were supporting a campaign called Homes Now, Home for Generation. And the ask was to get $2.5 billion in 2 different HPD programs. One of them was called Neighborhood Pillars, which basically allows for rent stabilized buildings that are in high distress, for a nonprofit organization to come in, take over, and rehabilitate it, and HPD will help with the funding of that, right? And it would be basically the building will form a tenants association, and the building would be ran in partnership with the nonprofit association and the tenants association. So basically, if you're the tenant president, nothing moves in terms of funding for the money for the building without the president's approval. And they have a whole democratic system in there. And then for Open Doors is to build new home ownership opportunities, so co-ops, condominium at affordable rates for low to middle income New Yorkers. So those were the programs that we were fighting for. What we were asking for specifically was, with the 2.5 billion, it would be over 5 years. So for Neighborhood Pillars and Open Doors, we were asking for 250 million each over the course of 5 years. Now, the budget has passed in June. And what we ended up getting for Neighborhood Pillars was 15 million for FY25 and 15 million for FY26. For Open Doors, we are receiving 55 million for FY25 and 55 million for, 55 million for FY25 and 55 million for FY26. I think I said FY24 at some point. I'm at 26. And so the status of where those things are right now. So Neighborhood Pillars, for those of you that were present in my last presentation, Neighborhood Pillars was basically defunded for the past since before the pandemic. Well, I remember telling the board to kind of look into it as well, because we have, through the AMO rezoning, there are commitments in regards to Neighborhood Pillars for our neighborhood. I have the numbers up. I can't even find it anymore, but they're there. But basically, the program has been defunded for a while. It had a line of $0. And so this is the first time that it's getting funded since after the pandemic. And so what HPD has expressed to us is that they're relaunching the term sheet to be able to identify the new process. They're just waiting for OMB to approve it. I have to talk to my council member. She's gonna, the entire Progressive Caucus is gonna put a little bit of pressure on OMB in order to move that forward. And so because the money is already there, they feel like the project should be able to begin to be launched towards the end of FY25. And the end of FY25 is June of next year. With Open Doors, so there are what are called closing seasons, right? And closing seasons is when they're closing on capital projects when they're closing on building for a home ownership. And so there's 2 closing dates. There's one that is coming up in December, and there is another one that will be in June of 2025. And so it's a little bit in the air because so HPD usually doesn't decide the projects that are going to get the open door funding until like the night before. There is a bill in the city council right now that is asking for that type of transparency. And that is currently being negotiated on. Basically though, with $55 million per year for this project, with $55 million, we can only construct 180 units of affordability, which is why we're asking for 250 million.
Mhm.
Because every unit costs $410,000.
Sorry, 1 second, Kiana. How many with the 55 million? So I can write that down. You said 180?
180. Because every unit costs $410,000.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And that is basically the update that I have for right now. They will let us know after the projects have been closed, like the list of projects that,
Mhm.
you know, have been successful in receiving this funding. You know, when I believe I spoke to HPD earlier today and I did advocate, I'm like, you know that y'all have a commitment with us through the rezoning. So they're also looking into that as well, but again, they can't start until OMB passes they get OMB clearance. And then also but overall for housing overall, the mayor did allocate $2 billion for affordable housing. The neighborhood pillars and open doors is part of that 2 billion in total. Part of that 2 billion also includes 136 million for I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the ELA program, which is the extremely low and low income affordability program. And that basically just finances like the construction of like multifamily rental units. CLOT has a lot of those types of buildings, so we do have some in our district. Which even though it's which was great because what the council initially asked for was $75 million for that, and he gave us more than what we asked for in that. And also City Feds. I have also an update on City Feds. I don't know if you guys are already aware of this. It had completely nothing to do with the Homes Now campaign, but I feel like it's important to know because the council did fight really hard for this. City Feds is now going to be baseline at $540.3 million a year annually. So before it was budgeted at 288 million and it wasn't necessarily baseline, but now moving forward, it will be at that 540.3 million.
543 million, right?
540.3 million.
Okay.
Yay.
Yeah, that's big. Sorry, I'm
And
just writing.
so that's all I have. We'll keep on trying to fight for more for both of these programs. Well, for the open doors and neighborhood pillars. But I just wanted to let you know it wasn't what we asked for, but it was something, and at least we were able to put like the C's again in neighborhood pillars. So
Yeah. No, that's really helpful. I have a couple questions, but just want to see if members have questions first. Indiana?
Thank you, Chair. You mentioned that some of those units were going to be part of the Inwood rezoning. Is there any risk of changes that come about from City of Yes putting those units at risk with that were agreed to with the rezoning? I know that one of the concerns that the community has raised about City of Yes is that some of the rezoning agreements, like buildings may be able to now maybe disregard them or, do something different to their building than what the rezoning agreement, I guess, like had where we landed with the agreements. I just didn't know if there should be any concern that City of Yes might impact those affordable units for the Inwood rezoning.
So for the inward rezoning part, and I'm gonna answer your question on the City of Yes part, but I just want to provide clarity. What I mentioned that was in the points of agreement is neighborhood pillars. And neighborhood pillars is not for any new units. Neighborhood pillars is for existing buildings. So our rent stabilized buildings that we have, many of them are in horrible condition. They're basically dilapidated, and we have a lot of slumlords in our district. So what neighborhood pillars would do, the last time that I gave the presentation, I gave the example of, oh my gosh, why am I forgetting the address? 655-566
Yeah.
Academy, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
It's on Academy Street. is on Academy Street, and that building was completely gut renovated. Gut renovated because there was a huge hole in the middle of like the fourth floor where like neighbors could see the downstairs neighbor and wave hello, and the building was about to come crashing down. And my office at that time, we called HPD, we called DOB, and there was an emergency vacate order placed on the entire building. And the building was actually taken away from the landlord, and the landlord had two options. You either go to jail and give up the building, or you keep your building. No, sorry, you either keep your building or go to jail, or you don't go to jail and you let go of your building. So obviously, prison scares people. So she gave up the building, and the building was then given to Community League of the Heights and completely renovated the entire building, added new units, added an elevator that never existed, added community space that never existed, added a rooftop garden like that didn't also never existed. And so that was where the birth of the concept of neighborhood pillars came from. So the buildings that currently exist, those will be the ones that will be eligible for neighborhood pillars, and those are the ones that are within the points of agreement. Now, in regard to the city of Yes, right? The city of Yes is not going to affect that portion, but we are all concerned about the city of Yes and like what's gonna happen with the actual rezoning area, where the new developments are ongoing. And so the city of Yes proposals are currently at the council right now. We have to vote on them soon. And so we're in the middle of, having the conversations and doing negotiations with the administration. We're gonna be having a town hall on November 19th at PS 48. Please spread the word. I think it's really important that our community understands what this means. The last thing that I would want to happen is basically what happened at the Inwood rezoning, where the rezoning came and people didn't fully understand what was happening until the rezoning was already here. And it was like 3 years after it passed and we couldn't do anything. And so I really urge people to come, to learn, and to give and to provide their feedback. And it's also good for us because it helps to know the things that our community is generally concerned about. We have our ideas, but it will be better to hear from you all as well. I don't know if that answers your question, Indiana.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Okay.
And Kiana, before I turn it over to Tanisha, if you could send us the flyer, please, because I saw something circulated online. I saw for November 13th. Has the date been changed to the 19th?
Yeah, we had to change the
Okay.
date.
Okay, not a problem. So yeah, if you can send us the flyers, we can also make sure that we're getting that out on the newsletter, and then that board members are aware of that as well. Tanisha?
Yes, thank you, Kiana, always for keeping us up to date. We really appreciate it. I just have a question about the 180 units. So that was for which one?
That
That's
was
for the
open
55
doors.
million?
Yeah, for the 55 million, for the construction of home ownership.
Right. So would that be in Washington Heights, or is this citywide?
No,
180 units.
No. So 180 units is citywide. Because remember when I gave the presentation, I gave y'all the breakdown of how much it costs to build, right? Which is why we were asking for as much as we were asking for. And so we didn't get what we were asking for. We got significantly less. And
But yeah, because I'm trying to figure out how is 180 units chair for the 5 barrels gonna really
same.
That's weird. I just really have a problem with it.
I'm like, this is not a win. This is definitely not a win.
It's not sustainable. That this is what I'm saying. So it's still millions of dollars, right? And at the end of the day, but if we don't have a complete plan for it, then we're still going to be at a loss. So it's like kind of giving crumbs, but they're really not even whole crumbs, because what are we going to do with 180 units across 5 boroughs? That's absolutely. So maybe we could talk about that, Chair, because that's I talk all the time to elected officials about we have to build policies that are equitable. If we are already starting from a place that is so far from equitable, then how do we ever even get to equitable if we are starting from the negative? Thank you. I yield.
Yeah. And what I would say, the proposal was to be able to at least build out 12,000 units, which is why we were asking for what we were asking for. But the fight continues.
Yes.
That just doesn't, Chair, I don't see any urgency. Like, we're in a housing crisis. So where's the urgency to make sure? I seen the urgency in the proposal, but I don't see the urgency from the city council. Because what are we doing?
I hear you. And so on that, you just mentioned, Kiana, that there's a bill asking for a bit more transparency on some of this, right? So can you?
Yeah. So Rafael Salamanca has the bill.
Okay.
They're discussing the bill right now.
Mhm.
There was a hearing, I believe it was last month, maybe 2 months ago, about this. And basically, when I spoke to HPD, they basically said it's challenging because, you know, hold on, let me try to remember the math that they gave me. Basically, when a developer's coming in and they have their budget, right? The funding that they would get from Open Doors in order to close it would have to, help subsidize for their amount of their funding amount, right? Sometimes in order to get they have to meet certain criteria and certain requirements, and sometimes their planners in HPD are like working almost 14, like 18, 20 hours, like until like 2 a.m. trying to close it out. So they don't know who's gonna like pass all of their metrics until like when they actually pass their metrics.
Okay.
Again, HPD needs to clarify that better, because when they explained that to me, I was like, okay, but
Let's connect offline, because one, we're overdue for a presentation and an update from HPD. And I wonder if part of that, I mean, there's a lot of things I think the committee probably wants to ask them. Part of that is also kind of, asking them more clarity and transparency on some of this. And then, the same thing that, as we've done in the past, if there's anything that we as a committee can do to be helpful, kind of particularly on this bill, if it's, putting forward a resolution supporting and asking for more transparency on this, some of these other bits and pieces that you talked about, as well, let us know. And I know we have something scheduled to kind of discuss some of the City of Yes stuff as well. So any necessary follow-up that we need to be doing, keep us posted.
And also in regard to City of Yes, and I think everybody will be interested in this part. So the council also came up with their counter proposals for the City of Yes to the mayor. That's also gonna be discussed at the town hall, public community meeting, public forum, I guess it's called, on the 19th.
Indiana, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I was planning on coming to the meeting on the 13th, but won't be able to make it on the 19th. Is there any way to either submit, our feedback, or do you know if there's going to be like a recording or just any way that we can participate or Zoom in or something like that?
So our communication director for NET, almost every event that we have, she live streams it.
Amazing. Okay.
So if you follow
Thank you very
Carmen on
much.
social media, I don't have any social media. I don't know how it works. I don't know if it gives you an alert when somebody's live stream, but like just follow her.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Kiana. Any other questions? I guess maybe then just the final bit for me. Obviously the council member is very busy. Anything else, like what are other things that are on her radar as it relates to, I know we talked a bit about the housing. I'm gonna kind of take advantage that you're here. On the human services side, what are some of the things that are on her radar at the moment? What are things that we should be thinking about? And again, as always, how can we help and support and push some of this forward?
On the human services part, as you know, HRA is still being a little bit of a problem. I don't know what's going on with the system. We're supposed to be having a hearing soon again about it. I feel like we probably spoke about it at the beginning of last year, but last year they did come forward and say that I guess the system crashed and they lost about 40,000 applications, I think it was. So they were just trying to recoup it. There was also a point where there was the SNAP scam, where
Mhm.
people were stealing the SNAP funding, and it took them like 3 months to be able to reimburse people with that SNAP funding. And so the SNAP funding, the SNAP scam is back. SNAP scam is back, and so they're just trying to go figure that out as well. HRA has been a problem. We're still trying to figure that out. Diana Ayala, our deputy speaker, is the chair of that committee, so we work closely with her in terms of that. And then in other social service, human services, I'm trying to think of what else. Give me an agency.
Members? DHS, oh, go ahead. DHS, I'm interested in DHS on the migrants.
On the migrant situation, I
yeah.
don't have an update about that for right now. I
Okay.
can get you an update. I can get you an
follow
update for your next meeting. I do not have an update about that, but it's still a hot mess, so.
Yeah. I think that's one to keep an eye on, especially with the new federal the new administration coming in January.
Chair, the one thing, if you don't mind,
Please, go ahead.
just to build off of that, like, if there is anything that we can do just to reassure people, right, about what their rights are, or, you know, to know which organizations to direct people to if they have questions about that or if they need help. I feel like I joined city council in like right at the start of 2016 and was there through that election and right after. And my understanding is that a lot of organizations are basically starting to do a lot of webinars and discussions in the weeks to come. So maybe I can share some of those with you in case other people in our committee are interested in joining, but just basically like setting up spaces to communicate with each other so that if you know, they start to do raids or workplace raids, housing, you know, pickups and things like that, that we can already be connected with each other and mobilize quickly.
So I agree with you, Indiana. I feel like at the board, the last time this person was in office was just really wild for our community. I don't know if you all remember the ICE agents that were present along our community, the ICE agents that would wait at the courthouse. I don't know what the Adams administration's policy is going to be with the ICE agents. I know that the de Blasio policy for NYPD was basically, we don't communicate with them, we don't give them any information on anybody. And that was the de Blasio policy that he brought the order down. I don't know what's gonna happen with Adams, but I do know that we have to organize. So when these things were happening, we had family members calling our office because they knew that the specific family member was undocumented. They were like, we haven't heard from them. I feel that, you know, there should be a community meeting, like a large, like maybe not a town hall, but like an information session with Northern Manhattan Coalition of Immigrant Rights, with NIMIC, with the district attorney's office is super important because Jocelyn Minaya is like the first call to see if they've even gone through the criminal justice system, because that's usually where they grab people at. And also somebody from the Department of Education in order to be able to provide these resources against the parent. I would say many of the parent coordinators, a lot of them were still here during his first administration. So hopefully they still have the information, but a refresher never hurt anybody so that they can help their parents and their kids. We do need to prepare because it's about to be, I feel, scary times, but.
Let's pick up on that. I was actually just about to text you. Let's pick up on that because I think there could be a place in things, Indiana, for raising that. I think there could be a place for either us as a committee or even the community board out wide, kind of, you know, just bringing kind of those different organizations together and hosting something. So let's pick that up and discuss offline.
We might have to do it soon because he already
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's gonna be something that
his
happens.
first month,
Yeah.
he's going to deport like 1 million people, I think he said. So
It's gonna have to happen quick, that's for sure. Thank you. I was gonna.
oh, I have one more update
Please.
that actually has to do with housing. So third-party transfer program.
Okay.
There is a big bill to reform it. It's at the council. We're co-prime sponsors on it. Along with Purina Sanchez is the main sponsor. We're co-prime. And what it will do, I can come back in December because we're still negotiating the bill right now. But basically, some of the changes that had to happen from the initial program was, so if you had a lien on your block, right? And you owed many taxes to the city.
Yep.
And you were considered a big priority because of the amount of taxes that you owed, right? The amount of summonses, a fine, you had a big lien. The way that the city picked their priority, but if there is another lot on that block that also has a lien that is not in priority, they're going to take the lot that is in priority and the lot that is not in priority, and they won't necessarily notify the owner of the lot that their building is being repossessed
Wow,
or
okay.
taken by the city. And it also affects our HDFCs. We're just changing up the process right now. We're negotiating on it, but I can come back in December and give some updates on that. I believe that I've worked on, there's only one TPT in the district,
Okay.
and it's on 187th Street, 618 West 187th Street. So I
Okay.
don't think we have any more, but I just wanted to put that out there in case we do have more.
Okay. No, that's helpful. Thank you. Thank you. We'll pick that up. There's a lot happening, that's for sure. I'm just gonna check in the chat too. Let's see something in the chat.
Kiana, did you get to mention our City of Yes community forum?
Girl, I mentioned it like 10 times.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was trying to translate for my mom while I was trying to listen to y'all. Yeah, I already know how that went.
Okay.
No, thank you. Any other questions for Kiana or Jamila while we have them? No, okay. Well, thank you again both for your time. Really, really appreciate it. I know we have kind of two other brief updates and presentations as well this evening. So thank you.
You have a good one.
Thank you. You too. So Louis, thank you so much. I know it's been a long meeting. Thank you for still sticking around. Is it okay if I go over to Louis and then over to you? Is that okay? Okay, awesome. So we also have someone here from the bridge, but we're gonna kind of turn it over to you if that's okay to provide your update on the Family Engagement Center.
Sure. Thank you so much. My name is Luis Cruz. I'm the community liaison for the Family Enrichment Center in Washington Heights and Inwood. An important message to our community. Some aspects of the center construction are taking longer than anticipated. So we extended the naming campaign, so community members are welcome to continue submitting ideas and names until December 6th. And then the winner will be announced by December the 13th. We apologize for any inconveniences this might cause, and we're also we're hiring a new director for our center, and we're looking for 2 community members who are willing to participate on the interview process. If any of you are interested in participating, let me know. The interviews will take place next week, on Wednesday the 13th at 11 a.m. and Friday the 15th at 11 a.m. as well. That's all I got.
Well,
Do you have any questions?
Yes, I do. For the interviews, are those online, in person?
Yes. The interviews, yeah, I forgot to say that. Yeah, their interviews will be online.
Okay.
We will, after we identify those 2 community members or any of you that would like to be part of those interviews, we will send them the details.
Okay, sounds good. And then on the construction thing, I know you said it's taking a little bit longer. Will this then push back the date of the opening? Because I know last month you said that it would, it's still meant to open in December, correct?
Yes, so it seems like it might be open by next spring.
Okay. So spring and not like January, February, but like later on?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
If
But
it's okay, can I ask why that's the case?
hopefully February will be the latest. So we're still so the landlord asked us to fill out. We still have to apply for a permit from the George Washington, from the Port Authority,
Mhm.
and it has to be approved.
Okay.
So we're waiting. I mean, we filed the permit application, and we're waiting for the application to be approved. Once it's approved, even though the construction process, it's already started, but we have to make sure that it gets approved before the construction process is completed.
Okay. No, that's helpful. Thank you for that update. And again, if there's anything that we can do to support, just let us know.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you so much. Have a good night.
Thank you. You as well. Have a good evening.
Okay.
All right. And now over to you. And please remind me your name, because I know we kind of briefly introduced out in the hallway, and you're from the bridge, right? So please, over to you.
First, I'd like to say thank you for having me, and allowing me the space to even speak about our program. My name is Alexandra Alma. I conduct outreach with the bridge, to the unhoused individuals within this, community, Washington Heights Inwood. We work closely with Jocelyn Minaya, as we are funded by the district attorney, of New York to bridge the gap in services in, the clients here in Washington Heights. I, conduct outreach 4 days a week in this neighborhood, meeting the clients where they are. I'm trying to connect them to services. There has been a little pushback on them wanting to be receptive to services, but the program is intended to work with clients 9 to 12 months in a year. And hopefully, like I'm saying, meet them where they are, kind of direct them to the services that they are lacking. If there is any area that you guys are seeing that is considered a hotspot where clients are frequently using substances or engaging in substance use, we are always happy to receive referrals and I can go visit them. I am actually the senior on the team, so I am 9 times out of 10 going to be the one who's gonna visit these areas. And then I would say on a more personal level, if there is any individual that you may want to refer to the program, we don't need for the client to have any insurance status or documentation, because we are helping them obtain these things. And even the name is not necessary, it's just more like a description and where this person frequents, so that we can go visit them, and that's about it.
Awesome. Thank you. I think I'm really glad you're here. Thank you, because we actually had a presentation from, the name escapes me. It wasn't Jocelyn. It was someone else at the bridge. And it was about a year and a half ago when the program was first being rolled out in Washington Heights. And we were talking about kind of and so it's kind of nice to then see from that then to actually seeing it kind of come to fruition, and you're doing the work, the very important work. And so thank you for that update. Any questions from our members?
How do we contact you? Do we just call?
Yes. You may just call. We have a referral line that is operated 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. But my work cell is actually on there. If I don't respond, it's probably because I'm with a client. So a quick text or an email, which my email is also on the card, is acceptable, and that's just about it. The program was actually set to launch February of this year, 2024. And so far, I don't want to give an inaccurate number, but I would say over 400 clients we have interacted with. In Washington Heights alone, we have a good 20 individual enrolled clients, which I am personally working with.
Nice.
This month alone, I was able to successfully connect someone to supportive housing, so they're actually finalizing their documentation for that. Yeah, it's really nice. And I was able to successfully connect someone into an outpatient program, a mental health program. The individual that I referred there was actually hospitalized in 2024 alone, from January to, I want to say, about May, a good 3 times in the psych unit. And so upon connecting her to mental health services, she has been successfully stabilized maybe since July.
Really
So that's a
good.
really big win.
That's real. That's just so happy. I'm like, that's so encouraging. Yeah, no, thank you for the work that you do because it's so important, and I'm glad you're able to connect then with the team. Yeah, exactly, the Freedom Agenda. And then you talked about kind of some of the hot spots, because one of the things that I sometimes see on kind of social media and things like that, particularly kind of some of these community groups, people say, oh, we kind of noticed this type of activity happening in these areas and things of that nature. And so I'll probably be reaching out kind of, and sometimes we even receive feedback from members saying, oh, or even at the office itself, where they get calls constantly, hey, we've, from residents and things, so we'll make sure that you're connected with them as well with that information.
Sure,
Thank
I
you.
just mentioned, there are some hotspots that I currently visit 4 days a week. One being McKenna Square.
Okay.
That one is not as populated as other areas, but there are people, because it's a smaller like street where no one is really walking.
Yeah.
They do tend to fall asleep there or sit on the benches overnight. Duarte Square on 170th and Broadway is also another hotspot that I always frequent. 179th Street by Holyrood and the DWDC program.
That's always where, that's always people get a lot of calls from there.
We recently received a referral for Lauren Hill. It's right off the bridge from 181st Street, Amsterdam Avenue. And that's across the street from Wheels and IS 143, the school. When I visited there, I want to say I counted a good 12 needles within a span of 5 minutes. So I partnered with On Point to have them syringe. Yeah, exactly. Syringe pickup. Another area is Quisqueya Playground, which is also on 180th Street. Off of like the right side, coming from the bridge. It's actually right in front of On Point, their organization. That park,
I think I know, yeah.
that park is usually a hotspot. But I'm working on identifying other hotspots within the community. But I'm always, free and welcome to accept.
No, thank you. Thank you so much.
So I cover all of Washington Heights, beginning on 155th Street, to the ends of Inwood Hill Park, which ends on 218th Street. The program does have other areas like Central and East Harlem, Lower East Side Chinatown, and Midtown West Side Kitchen. But I personally only cover 155th Street to 218, and every avenue in between.
Yeah. And how many people are kind of on the team doing outreach?
So each neighborhood is intended to have 3 navigators. I am currently the only one for Washington Heights. But we are working on hiring, 2 more, and that's also something that I'd be happy to share with you in case you have anyone who is interested. One of the requiremements on the team is to be a peer specialist, but you don't have to have that certification prior to coming on board. It's just for we feel that there are, with those that have lived and shared experience with chronic homelessness, substance use, mental health, the clients are more receptive to accepting advice and motivation from these people. So that's what we're doing.
So the same thing as I mentioned to Freedom Agenda, like recommend, the general meeting, the 2 minutes. I know that when the program was first rolling out, we also helped with putting the word out that they were hiring for the roles as well. So if there's like a job description or something, maybe that's something we can put in the community newsletter, those types of things where we can be helpful. I know it's a little late, so just wanting to see if there's anyone has any other questions for. No, okay, I'm not seeing any. Thank you. If it's okay, I'll add you to my long email list.
Excited to be there.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's very basic, but I think it's nice at least kind of there's a list of like, there's so many organizations doing great work. So where can we find again those points of synergy to complement rather than reinvent? Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Any old business?
Not for me.
Okay. Any new business? No.
Not
Okay.
for me.
Yeah, I guess the only thing for new business is obviously there's a lot happening. On HRA, actually, I did reach out to HRA and I'm due to have a call with them soon. So hopefully we'll actually be able to get them to a future meeting so we can ask them some of the questions that we have, but also those that Kiana was talking about regarding, SNAP scams and, delays and people not getting services that they, need and so on and so forth. So stay tuned for that. And then I guess with that, just thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
Motion to adjourn.
Second? Awesome. Thank you. Have a
Thank you, Chair.
wonderful evening, everyone. Take care and stay safe.
You too, Chair. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much for coming and sticking it out.
Can we take some of these?